Finally, I got myself a working backwards compatible PlayStation 3. And what better way to break it in than to review a PS2 game I played the hell out of back in the day. It's called Urban Reign, and it's a relatively unknown game made by Namco of all companies way back in 2005, and it's only for the PS2. This was technically around the same time frame that Namco finalized their merger with another well-known company, even today, Bandai. Namco during this same year of 2005 developed and or published numerous well-known games like Soul Calibur 3, Dead to Rights 2, a couple Tales games, and one of my personal favorites, We Love Katamari. So obviously Namco during this time was popping out hit after hit. But then we have the mystery that is Urban Reign. One thing you'll end up noticing immediately when you start playing the game is that the story mode is severely lacking in depth, and I found myself skipping cutscenes due to how uninteresting it all was. That being said, allow me to explain what the game's about. You see, Urban Reign's story involves you fighting through numerous gangs, trying to figure out the whereabouts of some kidnapped gang member that you were hired to find. Along the way, as you are getting some answers, more questions are raised as you figure out who is really behind this turf war. The story can be easily beaten in about 3 to 4 hours. However, that doesn't ruin its replay value as you unlock free mode where you can play any one of the story levels with whatever character you've unlocked. You also get the challenge mode, and playing these modes, achieving high scores, allows you to unlock various secret characters, including some fighters from the Tekken series. The game visually looks really nice, character models look great, the menus are fine, lighting is good, animations are absolutely fantastic. The only debatable criticism I have, I guess, is that the arenas at times can be very stale looking, very visually boring to look at. You know like in Skullgirls, Blaze Blue, Mortal Kombat, usually most side-scrolling fighting games, the backgrounds are very lively, gorgeous to look at, very interesting visually. That's not so much the case with Urban Reign, but of course, Urban Reign takes place in a not-so-great area of the city, so in a way, it's understandable why it looks the way it does. The gameplay of Urban Reign as a whole is, simply put, fun. It reminds me a lot of old-school beat-em-ups like Double Dragon, Streets of Rage. It's also extremely similar to a game I grew up with called Fighting Force. It brings me back, and I think that's why I enjoy this game as much as I do. And I wouldn't really call Urban Reign a mindless beat-em-up either. It's a little bit more complex than that. The AI will completely destroy you if you don't understand the combat, even on the easier difficulties. It has its flaws, like the camera control is not so great, and another thing that drives me nuts is the whole lock-on target thing. I find myself locking onto the wrong enemies all the time, which can be incredibly frustrating if there's a ton of guys in a fight and you're locking onto an enemy that's nowhere near you. You can't block in this game, but you can counter and parry by simply pressing the square button at the right time. So, you ever play those older WWE or WWF games like Here Comes the Pain, SmackDown vs. Raw, or even Shut Your Mouth? The way you counter in those wrestling games is nearly identical to that of Urban Reign. Speaking of those wrestling games, I noticed a lot of grapple moves in Urban Reign seem to be taken straight from those wrestling games as well. It's really funny when you're not expecting to see moves like Brock Lesnar's F5, Booker T's scissors kick, and the rock bottom, hell, even a figure 4 leg lock. It's kinda strange, but I'm not mad. Along with grappling, you can strike your opponents with various combinations of punches and kicks. Pushing the analog or pressing the D-pad in different directions changes the combo you perform. Same goes with the grapple moves. If you press down and grapple, you'll do a throw that damages the legs specifically. Pressing left or right attacks the body, and pressing up goes for the head. Picking up and using weapons in this game isn't really all that much fun to me. Yeah, they do a ton of damage, but half the time I never even use them, and the reason why is because even if you take a small minor punch or kick, you end up dropping your weapon, yet at the same time you can throw a guy into a wall or do like an 8-punch combo, and the enemy is still holding onto their baseball bat for dear life. The difficulty of Urban Reign hovers around the strange territory. Yes, it gets harder as you progress through the story mode, like most games tend to, but overall, you'll find a weird mix of levels where the enemies are stupid easy, and then others, especially boss levels, where the enemy is brutally, frustratingly difficult. The third to last level was by far the most frustrating level I've played in any game in the past, oh god, I don't know, 5 years maybe? You see, the two guys you end up fighting not only take a ton of damage, but they're super strong and counter like half the moves you throw at them. It took me nearly a half hour to beat them, and there was a point I got so pissed off. The enemy had barely any life left, just like a punch would have killed him, right? So I had a decent amount of life, and he did this special attack and killed me instantly. I got so mad. I yelled, threw the controller on the ground, and then the damn thing bounced right back up in my face and smacked me good on the lip. And you know what? As soon as it happened, I couldn't stop laughing. I get very rarely angry at video games these days, and I couldn't help it. The whole situation was just hilarious. Eventually, I did beat that level, and man, I gotta tell you, that feeling was, oh god, it was like I cured cancer. Ironically, the last few levels weren't even slightly as difficult as level 97. Like I said, the difficulty is sporadic and weird. Sometimes you can easily breeze through a level without any problems, and then there's others that are like pulling teeth. To touch back on the story mode for just a second, when you progress through the story, you add points to your stats to make your character stronger. And I wish instead they did something different. For example, your character is a mercenary, a fighter for hire, right? It would have made more sense, in my opinion, had they changed it to a money type system. Every level you play earns you money depending on how well you do. Then you can use that money to purchase new moves, weapons, increase your skills, raise your stats, unlock characters, maybe some outfits, levels, that sort of thing. Just an opinion, of course, but I would have enjoyed that format so much better than what we got. I don't know, to me it lacks depth and interest the way the developers did it here. And while I'm on the subject of lacking, this game has no online multiplayer for whatever reason. No idea why either. This game is more than capable of having online functionality and would have greatly benefited from it. Especially if there was like some sort of online co-op type mode. Kind of a wasted opportunity if you ask me. So, that's Urban Reign, everyone. It is definitely a fun game. I really enjoyed my time with it. I just wish there was more to it. I wish there would have been an online mode. I wish the game had an actual well thought out storyline that was engaging. There's a lot that could have been in this game to make it much better than it is. Not saying that Urban Reign is bad. It is not a bad game whatsoever. It just lacks in a lot of aspects, which is unfortunate. It makes me wonder if Namco were worried about the game in terms of how well it would perform in sales and with the critics, so they didn't put that much effort into the game as they would normally for the other more popular titles that they've produced. It's possible, only because I don't know any other person in my personal life who has ever even heard of this game other than myself. If you like old school brawlers, if you like old school beat 'em up type games, I think you'll enjoy Urban Reign for what it is. Problem is, Urban Reign is by no means a cheap game, nor is it really all that easy to come across anymore. You see, I bought Urban Reign from GameStop many years ago for only $1. It's worth around $30 these days, believe it or not. Goes to show you how game prices fluctuate over time. Anyway, apparently this game has somewhat of a cult following online, and people have been pushing to get an HD remaster on modern game systems, as well as a sequel. Considering the game is not all that well known, I don't really see Bandai Namco wanting anything to do with Urban Reign, but you never really know. Urban Reign could perhaps rise in popularity, or linger in the shadows, remaining in the shroud of obscurity, like it always unfortunately has.
Important business here. Take your ass somewhere else, homeboy.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm talking to you, fool.
Oh, you think you funny, huh?
You laugh on this now.